This conference will now be recorded.
So good evening. Tonight is going to be a review of all of the basically the material that we've covered this semester in preparation for the final exam. We're going to cover everything from chapter 4 through 14. Chapter 4 was the pronunciation chapter, so there's not going to be anything specific asked from that, but you kind of have to know that material in order to answer the rest of it. We're going to cover all the vocabulary from chapters 4 through 14, with the exception of the prepositions, which you're allowed to use your cards. All, I believe it's 127 words, are going to be fair game for the vocabulary section of the test. That's going to be the first section. It's going to be 50 questions. They're going to be matching. So even if you don't know the exact definition, by combination of process of elimination and having a little bit of something to go on, you'll at least have something to work with whenever you're doing the matching for that section. I'm going to try to make it so that there's going to be roughly the same number from each chapter. You can see there, we're going to cover about 10 chapters, so you can expect somewhere along the lines of 5 from each. There's a few that have a lot more vocabulary than other ones, and I probably will give those a little bit more. And then chapter 8, since we're not going to ask on the prepositions, there's only a couple words left. But in general, you're going to have roughly an equal distribution from each of the chapters. So if you're only going to learn one thing, this is probably the easiest place to get points. There's going to be approximately 150 questions total, but I'm only going to grade it as if there are 100. So what that means to you is I'm spotting you 50 points from the get-go. It's you could put absolutely nothing down and you'd still get a 50. Okay. All right, so that's the first thing. Know your vocabulary. That's a good rule in general because you can always fall back on vocabulary if you don't necessarily know things. The next thing, there's going to be a parsing section. And it's going to be somewhere between 15 and 25 words. I'm actually going to send out in the study guide the words I want you to be able to parse. I'm just going to ask case number and gender in this particular section. I'm not going to ask you to put the lexical form. I'm not going to ask you to put the inflected meaning. What I would just want to see is, can you parse? So for this section, there's going to be a possible kind of around 50 points for this. So each one of these is going to be worth a point. So for 15, that'll be 45 points. It's going to be something somewhere between, like I said, 15 and 25, depending on how much the translation is worth. So for parsing, you're going to want to take a look at page 55 in the 4th edition. So that goes over your masculine, feminine, neuter, nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. So this is your singular here, nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, plural down here. So in our masculine, you'll remember we have our os, u, o, on, oi, own, ois, us. In the feminine, ace, a, ain, I, own, ice, os. And then in the neuter, on, oo, o, on, own, ois, ah. Okay, so that's your first declensions. For reference, let's see, the third declension is going to be found I guess page 101 is probably the best place to look at the third declension. It's the complete paradigm, but it's probably the cleanest of the different descriptions. So if you remember the third declension, masculine and feminine is, if you remember, I had my little mnemonic, which was SASIA. So it's sigma, omicron sigma, iota, alpha, / nu. And this is your singular. And then in the plural, we have S oncius. S oncius. So that's epsilon sigma, omega nu, sigma iota, and alpha sigma. And just kind of as a refresher, if you'll remember, this is the same as the first and the second declension. This is the first and second declension kind of flipped around. This is the same as the masculine nominative. This is the same as the dative for all the singulars, except it doesn't subscript. And this is the same as the, the alpha nu is the same as what the singular feminine would be. So you kind of smush the two together. And then you have the neuter. So in the nominative, you don't have an ending. Omicron sigma iota and no ending. Then you have alpha, omega nu, C, and alpha. So you can kind of see some similarities here. It's going to be the same for second declension or third declension for the neuter. This is one of the noun rules, but this is the same, and this is the same. So just review that chart on page 101. That should handle most of the parsing. Okay. So kind of keeping track here, you're going to have 50 vocab. You're going to have 50-ish points from parsing. And then you're going to have 50-ish points from translations. I'm going to provide all of the words that we have not covered. I'm not going to tell you which exact passages I'm going to cover. It's going to be 2 longer passages. One of them is going to come from 1 John, and the other one's going to come from Ephesians. Okay, these are 1 John is probably John's simplest work that he did, and then Ephesians is probably Paul's easiest to translate, so that's why I picked those 2. Okay, so maybe look over those. If you have a Greek text, look over that to see if there's anything that, any funny forms that you're worried about that you may want to take a look at. So yeah, that's the main thing for that. So there is going to be some short answer. So there's going to be free response type questions. So what I want you to know for this, I'm not going to give you the exact question, but know the 8 noun rules. So that's on page 422. That's the only place I think that they're all together. Okay, so know that. You may not have to know all of them, but I do want you to know at least a few of them. Okay, it might be that of the 8, I ask you to give me 3 or 4 of them. Okay, so know that. On page 102 and 103, this might not be a short answer. This may be kind of a multiple choice type question. But on page 102 to 103, it shows this square of stops and what happens whenever certain things meet. So I might ask you a question that looks something like this. Kappa plus sigma equals what? And what I would expect you to come up with is a C. Okay? And it's just understanding how that works. Trying to find the page so that I tell you correct. Well, I can't find the exact page number, but I want you to learn the paradigm for POS. Be able to produce the paradigm for POS. I thought it was in chapter 10, but oh, here it is. Page 104. Okay. It's written out there. Just be able to reproduce that chart. Okay. There's also going to be, so with the short answer, some multiple choice. So this is going to be things like adjective positions, possibly some questions like part of speech. So I may write up there a word like autos, and what I'm expecting you to know is that that's a pronoun. Okay. So like I said, you're going to expect 50 for the vocab, somewhere between 40 and 50 points for the parsing, somewhere around 40 to 50 points for the translations, and the rest of it will be short answer and multiple choice. Okay. I have complete confidence that everybody will pass this. I do want you to take it without any type of notes, except for those preposition sheets. I'm confident that just about everybody is going to get a high B or an A on this. So to get you guys to do your best, whoever has the highest grade, I'm going to give a copy of the Tyndale House Greek New Testament. It comes in a reader's edition now that I really like. So we'll get a copy of that to whoever has the highest grade. If 2 people tie, you'll both get one. Like I said, I expect everybody to get an A, so this is probably going to be a very high grade. I'm totally confident in you guys. Really, just kind of as a review, if I only was going to study, it's not very good grammar. All right. So if you only had 30 minutes to study, what I would say to do, know your vocab well. Know the noun paradigms. This is going to be over 85% of the test. Because if you know the noun paradigms and you know your vocab, you're going to be able to translate anything I give you. So review those things. If you have any questions about particular things, let me know. You don't have to know everything exactly correct to do well on this test. I'll tell you that whenever I give you a bigger passage like this, you're going to be able to figure out a lot of words that you can't seem to remember based on context. And I'm totally convinced that everybody's going to do well. Thank you.